Hello, this is Jo from Maths Tutor Me. Today we're going to start a topic on equations, and to introduce equations today we're going to look at flowcharts and backtracking. So when using flowcharts we need to use inverse operations. In this table here I've listed what inverse operations are. So if we have a plus sign, the inverse operation is a minus sign. A negative sign, the inverse operation is a plus. So pluses and minuses are opposites of each other, and times and divide are the inverses of each other as well. So times the inverse is divide, divide the inverse is times. Okay, so looking at the examples, complete the flowchart to find the output number. What we want to do is follow the instructions through this diagram to find the final number. So if we start with 7, the first thing we're told to do is multiply that by 5. Okay, that gives us 35. Then the next instruction is to subtract 3, which would be 32. And then we want to divide by 4, which would give us our final answer, which is 8. Okay, that's going forwards through the flowchart. Okay, but in question 2, we want to use backtracking to go backwards to find what the input number would have been. So we want to find the starting number. So all the arrows though are going in the forwards direction. If we want to go backwards this way, we have to do the opposite or the inverse operation. So the inverse of a minus is to plus. The opposite of a times is to divide, and the opposite of adding is to subtract. Okay, so if we're starting with 13, we need to add 7 to get this square. Then we need to divide by 2. And we need to subtract 6. So our input number would be 4. Okay, so this question 1 and question 2, we were just using numbers. But in equations, we want to use letters. So over in question 3, we now want to complete the flowcharts when we have pro-numerals in the boxes. So if we're starting with x and I want to multiply that by 8, we would write that as 8x. Okay, then my next instruction is to subtract 1. So an 8x and a 1, they're not like terms. So we just need to write that as 8x minus 1. Okay, so we're building up an expression. Let's do that again for B. I'm starting with A this time. I want to add 6. So that would be A plus 6. Now I want to multiply that by 7. Now that whole expression has to be multiplied by 7, which means the best thing to do is to put it in brackets. 7 times by A plus 6. And now that whole expression needs to be divided by 5. Now remember, divide can also be written as a fraction. So that would be 7a plus 6 in brackets. Now to divide, we put it over 5. Okay. Now in this question 4, we're given an expression here and we want to find the instructions to build up to this expression. So we would start with k and we have to build up to this expression, and the same in B here. Okay, so starting with k, the first thing that I would need to do to k is subtract the 4. Okay, and that would give k minus 4. Then I would divide that whole expression by 9 so that I would get my final expression k minus 4 over 9. And of course, to fill in the arrows going backwards, if you wanted to go backwards, it would be times by 9 and plus 4. Okay, and now for B, starting with the h, we want to build up to this expression. First of all, I would need to add the 1 so that I get h plus 1. Now that has been divided by 6, so divide by 6 gives h plus 1 over 6. Finally, I can subtract the 3 that will go on the end. So h plus 1 over 6 minus 3. And in our next lesson, we're going to be using flowcharts to solve equations, so it's important that we learn how to go backwards as well. The opposite, the inverse function, would be to add 3 times 6 and minus 1. Okay, so for today, we just want to practice this first step of working with flowcharts, and we'll build into some harder ones in our next lesson. So, time for you to have a practice. So these questions are very similar to the ones that I've just shown you. I'd like you to pause the video and give these questions a try and then restart to see the answer. So if we want to complete the flowchart to find the output number, we're starting with 9. First of all, we have to divide by 3, which gives us 3, plus 4 gives us 7, times 7 by 6 is 42. Okay, now going backwards, backtracking, we need to do the opposites to go backwards, or the inverse functions. So the inverse of plus 1 is to minus 1, inverse of times by 3 is to divide by 3, and the inverse of minus 2 is to plus 2. So starting with 28, I need to subtract 1 to get 27. Then I need to divide by 3, which will give me 9. And then I need to plus 2 to get 11. So my input number is 11. Okay, moving into the algebra-based questions. This time we're starting with m. We want to divide that by 3. So the best way to write that is m over 3. Then we want to add 2. So we have m over 3, 3, and then plus 2 will go out the side. For b, we're starting with n. Multiply that by 4, we write that as 4n. Then we want to subtract 1. So 4n, take away 1. Then that whole thing needs to be divided by 9. So we're going to turn it into a fraction. 4n minus 1 all over 9, because everything's divided by 9. Okay, question 4, we're going to build up to these expressions. Starting with y, the first thing we need to do is divide that by 5, which will give us y over 5. Then I need to subtract 7 to get y over 5 minus 7. Okay, going backwards, just to show the operations here, would be to add 7 and to multiply by 5. And for b, which is using the pronumeral b, we start with that in the first box. B, first of all, has to be multiplied with the 9 to get 9b. Then we still have to subtract the 4 to get 9b minus 4. And now we have that whole bracket, we can multiply that by the 6. So that will make 6 multiplied by 9b minus 4. Close bracket. Going backwards, divide by 6, plus 4, and divide by 9. Okay, so that's the end of my little introduction on using flowcharts and backtracking today. Join me next time and keep practicing until then. Bye.